Hi, time for another instruction video. Sorry, but I feel like it's time. Um, I rarely like bragging for its own sake, but I think this might be a very unique video in that I don't think this topic of this video has been done in an instruction live setting about this particular topic maybe before. So I think this might be unique. I'm going to talk about something called pitch axis theory that Joe Satriani got from his high school music teacher named Bill Westcott. And Joe said that it had escaped the musical academic lexicon, and because it hadn't got the attention it probably deserved. And I'm going to explain it to you if I can. Okay. So Joe also called pitch axis a combination of modulation and drone. So you're talking about modulating key, but keeping the actual tonic the same, which means what you're doing is you're taking this one particular tonic note, there's only 12 possibilities, and playing whatever mode you want using that tonic note. But the mode changes, therefore the keys change, but the actual tonic doesn't change. So in other words, if you're in E, you would play maybe E Lydian, E Mixolydian, E Ionian, E Lydian, where the notes are changing, but the tonic is always the same, but the mode of that tonic changes. And people haven't really talked about this much. I don't know why. Maybe because it goes over their heads, or because it's hard to apply, or because it's complicated, but none of those are reasons not to do it in my book. So let's talk about, first starting with some of Joe's examples, and let me take it from there and kind of show my own kind of thing on it, because I'm not saying I'm a master of it, maybe on the Satriani's level, but I like to think that I can give it a shot. So Joe uses it three most notable times in his career. The three songs that I'm talking about are, first of all, his very first song on his very first album, which is the album is called Not of This Earth, and the song is called Not of This Earth. He uses it in that. Then he uses it on a song called Satch Boogie from Surfing with the Alien, the second album he made, where it's in the form of a tapped interlude that's actually doesn't have any backing to it, but he's changing the modes of it as he goes, but staying in the same key, the same tonic of A, but the modes change. And then in a song called With the Jupiter in Mind from his album Crystal Planet, which I didn't review that song, but I got the gist of it in my head. So let's talk about some of his examples, and let me just take it from there and show what I think of it and some examples I can actually do, because I don't just want to play what Joe does, but that's a good thing to do. Joe's a great player. First of all, let's talk about Not of This Earth. So it's the rhythm is this, basically. I hope you can hear this. So the thing is that it's little sus4 or sus2, depending on how you look at it. I'm going to look at it as sus4. Triads, if you want to call it triads, at least 3-note chords, that define all in the key, but change the mode of it. So the first one is that is a, do I want to get into the detail of that? The E is the E is note, 6th string. Then it's got a D, E, F, F sharp, I think. Make sure that that's true. D, E, F, G, G sharp. Okay, so G sharp is the major third in E, so it's got a major third. Then it's got a C sharp, which is in E. C sharp is the major sixth. Major sixth. Okay, I got that. So it's got a what did I say? Major third, major sixth, and finally it has a D sharp, and D sharp in the key of E is the 7th, so it's a major 7th. So the chord has a major third, 6th, major 6th that is, and major 7th, and Joe treats that as E Lydian mode. Technically it doesn't have the sharp 4 to definitely make it Lydian, so it could actually have been Ionian in this case, but Joe chooses Lydian, and I don't think it's a beautiful sound. Then he goes down to this. So now It's still an E, it's still the first note, but now the note, the 3-note triad, if you want to call it that, is D, E, F, G, which is a minor third, then C, which is a C, G, A, B, C. C is a minor 6, so that's going to define an Aeolian sound, because or Phrygian. We don't know that yet. And then it's got a D, a D, and D is the minor 7th in E. So it's got minor 3rd, minor 6th, minor 7th. So technically that could be Phrygian because the 9th isn't there, but he's going to call it Aeolian for this sake, and I think that's a good choice. You don't want to go from Lydian to Phrygian is dramatic, whereas from Lydian to Aeolian is a little smoother. And then he goes back to everything, and then he goes to up a half step with everything. This one's really ambiguous, but he makes a good choice. This has a D, E, F, G, A. This chord has a 4th. It has the 4, 5, 6. The 4th, which is D, E, F, G. No, the G. Let me think here. E, F, G. Wait. D, E, F, G, A. What am I thinking? Yeah, it is the 4th. It's A. So it has the 4th, which is A. 4, 5, 6. Then it has G, A, B, C, D. Has the minor 7th, which is the minor 7th, and then it has E, the root. So it only has the E, which is the root, the tonic note, and it has D, E, F, G, A, the 4th, and it has the 7th. So the major 3rd isn't there, or the minor 3rd isn't there. So it could really be just about anything. It couldn't be Lydian, and there's 2 things it couldn't be. But Joe chooses to make this Mixolydian. He chooses to make the 3rd major, and therefore with the 4th, 5, 6, 7th, and root, it fits. So he's using Mixolydian there, E Mixolydian, back to the Lydian thing. So now that was a lot of explanation, just so I can show that we show that we've done our homework. But then let me just play some examples. He starts it. Joe likes to talk. Now I'm talking about Joe, but that's okay. It's still a lesson. Joe talks about something else that doesn't get much talk, is fifth string root scales and 6th string root scales. In other words, don't always play scales only with the 6th string root. What about if you're on the 5th string and you don't play the 6th string, then you have to play the pattern, the 5th string root scales, and it's a little different than it would because of the changes in the way the guitar strings are tuned from there. And I like that idea of his. Sometimes if you're an E, you want to play on the 12th fret of the 6th string, Sometimes you want to play on the 7th fret of the A string, which is also an E, only now you're on 5th string root. So you don't have the 6th string, so all the patterns are going to change. But it's good to know those. It's good to know. So you're not always trapped on the 6th string around. You can also move the 5th string root. And the 4th string root is kind of dumb because it just makes it the same as 6 without the 5th and 6th. So it's not really, don't need to do 4th string. Because it's only 4 strings, it's not as useful. So in this case, he does that. He plays the 5th string root, scales over that E pitch axis thing, and he's playing. So the E on the 5th string is the 7th fret. So he's playing. I'm not going to mimic Joe exactly, but I'm going to play a little thing that shows that I think I know what Joe's doing. Let me get it in my mind here. I don't practice for these. All right, so let's play it a little bit, and then when I get to the solo part, I'm going to play a little version of it that I think, and see if you guys can pick it up and see what it sounds like. I did was I played E Lydian, and I would go to E Aeolian, and I would go to E Lydian, and E Mixolydian. And it's a really cool sound. I don't know why people don't do this kind of thing. Well, maybe it's because it's hard to do, and they're afraid of falling on their feet, falling on their butts about it. I don't know. Now the next one is Satch Boogie. He does this. Satch Boogie is basically a boogie song in A, but then when he does this tapped interlude part, he keeps it in A, and he uses the open A string. I mean, he uses the A string mostly, but he changes the modes around. So let's look at that. I get accused of playing Satch Boogie too much. I really love it. But here's part of it. And let me play the tapped interlude part, and then see if we can break it down. Be all modes in A, basically. So yeah, it's tapping part is what is the pitch axis part, and he just does different modes on it. And I goofed up there a little bit, but I was having too much fun and wasn't paying attention on one of the notes there. He starts with A Lydian, then A Dorian, then A Aeolian, A Aeolian again, more A Aeolian, A harmonic minor, Lydian, that's it, and then he does stuff. So basically, it was the books say that that's a Ionian, but I don't buy it. It's a Lydian to me. It's on a Mixolydian. To test me, and just to say I didn't just play what Joe did, let me try my own little etude there and see if I can pull it off and see what comes out of me. Because that's just playing what Joe did, but I want to teach the concept of pitch axis here. I'm going to play Satch Boogie again, boring maybe, but sorry. And then I'm going to play my own little interlude in A. I'm just going to make up and see if I can see if you like mine, or do you think that I should just stick to Joe's, or do you like it both? Oof. I really just made that up. That wasn't something I planned, but I know my notes and know my theory, and I just use my ear and try to make it up and make it sound good, and but yet not be exactly what Joe did, or even the modes Joe used. And I don't remember what I just did, all of it, so I can't really go into I did this, this, and this. But the point was, I'm not sure Joe did that either. I think he just got in the studio and played what felt good. I don't think he thought of it ahead of time, and like I just didn't just there, but I just did my little thing. And if it sounded like Joe, then that's probably partly good because I'm influenced by Joe. I mean, he's a great player. If it didn't, then it's my own thing, and that's cool too. So either way, I take credit. Haha, lol. Finally, the last thing, he does pitch access in a song called "With Jupiter in Mind" off of Crystal Planet, and that one I haven't studied too much, but it basically goes back and forth between E Dorian and E Lydian, so it's not as much to it as the other two examples. So I think it's like this. So the Dorian part, and then the Lydian, and Dorian, and Lydian, and let's just see what I can do. I didn't really study this. Yeah, that's my little version of it. I didn't even look the song up, but that's what I had in mind of it. And the two triads there are something he uses also in a song called Ice Nine, but he never really gets into the soloing of the pitch axis there, so I didn't really include that in this discussion. That's two triads. The first one is with both of them have E in the root. The first one, or the second, depending on what you start with, has D sharp, which is the major seventh in E, G sharp, which is the uh, major third in E, and then finally A sharp, which is the augmented fourth in E. So that definitely is a Lydian tonality. There's no Ionian mistake there. And then it goes down a step to this, which is D, which is the minor seventh in E, then G, which is the minor third in E, and then A, which is the perfect fourth in E. So that could be Aeolian too, but he chose Dorian. So he does just, Lydian, for the melody, it was this. It's a Dorian melody. This is a Lydian. And then for the solo, I was just Lydian and Dorian back and forth. And no, and that's one thing to note about my. I'm almost done here. One thing to note about my solo that I think is interesting that you should also try is linear single string scales. Don't just know the patterns. I mean, there's different techniques to use, but there's also different fretboard approaches to scales. And first approach, one of the approaches at least, is positional. Well, you're all in the same position on the neck, and you change the position as you go up and down. But then there's also linear, where you just you're on one string at a time, and you have to know the scale linearly up and down on one string, which is not harder than the other, but it's a different skill, and it takes some strength and some understanding and analysis also, and it's good to do. You don't want to just be stuck in a. Steve Vai once said several times, probably at least once, said, I didn't want to be a positional player. He didn't want to be just a guy that just stays like that. He wanted to go all over strings up and down, and it makes it look flashy, and it makes it cool sounding, and it's a different style, and I like to do that. So notice when I'm soloing, it's not always, it's both for me. I mean, Steve Vai is particularly non-positional, whereas some people are particularly positional. But I try to do both. I'm not trying to be a Steve Vai clone and never be positional, but I like linear too. So notice I was doing a lot of linear stuff in the scales, and that's nice to know that scales that way too, because you have to know it in a different way. It's a different part of the brain or something. You have to know the order of the half steps and whole steps pretty good, and then be able to slide up and down technically is different than playing in just one position, and also knowing the scales more of a positional thing rather than knowing the actual intervals. It's just a different way of learning them. Well, thank you guys. Love you guys. Happy 4th of July, because this is the 4th of July. Don't forget I played the Star Spangled Banner on my channel. It got like 0 views. No, just kidding. It got a few views. And it got 13 so far. I'm 1,000 views away from a million views. It seems like everything's slowing down now because of that. I don't know if the Google is doing that or if you guys are doing that. You guys are saying don't give me too many views, or if the Google's just not recording. I don't know. But I love you guys. Rock and roll. Happy 4th of July. Take care. Love you guys. Bye-bye.